Okay, so I would like to discuss Saxon's critique of Buddhism.
Oh, yeah.
Let's roll the clip.
Okay. Okay. I'm Jonathan Gold.
Should we say that again?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Gold. I teach Buddhism at Princeton University.
And I'm Rachel Carbonara, and I study spirituality at Princeton University. And we are here to share our thoughts about The White Lotus, Season 3.
Buddhism is for people that want to suppress in life. They're afraid. Don't get attached. Don't have desires. Don't even try. Just sit there in a lotus position with a thumb up your ass. But, I mean, it is good to want things. You know, as long as you can get them. I mean, getting what you want in life, that's happiness, bro.
But what do I want, I guess?
Pussy, money, freedom, respect. You don't need to shrink away from life like her.
Yeah, I love that line. It's good to want things as long as you can get them. Like, that's the key problem. I mean, the critique is a good critique if you take this idea very simplistically. So let's take a step back. The Buddhist view is that desire is a problem. Desire presents a problem for people. So you can be very simplistic about this and say, okay, we should just stop wanting things. We should give up on all things. I would argue that the Buddhist position is a little more subtle than that, and it is actually just pointing out all the kinds of problems that people have because of desire. If you just start paying attention to that, then and you can tone down your desire, you can be more effective and smarter and also more skillful and compassionate.
So you were recently interviewed by Tricycle, which is a Buddhist magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to speak to you about Žižek's critique of Buddhism. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Žižek is a pretty famous philosopher. I would like to suggest, for the purpose of our conversation today, that Saxon and Žižek have something in common. Okay, so I would say, obviously, their concerns about Buddhism are different. So Žižek has a critique of Buddhism, which you can, restate more eloquently than I will now. But it seems to me that Žižek's critique of Buddhism is that essentially it prevents people from revolting against capitalism. Saxon's concern seems to be that Buddhism prevents people from experiencing worldly pleasures. So they have different concerns, but there is a similarity in their critiques, which is that Buddhism prevents people from acting in the world or fully participating in the world. So what exactly is Žižek's critique of Buddhism? And do you think it's fair to say that his critique has anything in common with Saxon's critique?
I think you've got a good point. They are definitely similar. Žižek is criticizing especially the modern retreat center Buddhism, where, people take a week off of their, IT jobs in Silicon Valley, and then they come back refreshed and ready to work harder. And they're living, an otherwise destructive, meaningless life or something. But they're able to handle it because, they come back to center, they breathe, and they use that as a way to just sort of power through and do even more work for the man. That's I think a legitimate critique, and it's a misuse in some ways of Buddhist practice to use it to make more money or something like that. I think that in both cases you have somebody who's rightly critiquing Buddhism for making people sort of using these ideas as kind of cover for cowardice or for, just not doing something that they don't want to do. They don't want to face up to some truth. Buddhism, gets the bad rap for being an escapist tradition, maybe because people sometimes do use it that way.
So if we wanted to give a quick recap for our listeners, is Buddhism escapist?
I don't think Buddhism is escapist. I think it does value stopping whatever you're doing and looking around and taking a break. And if that means that you have to get away for a time from whatever it is that you're up to, then maybe you do have to escape, at least for a time.
Great. So who do you think is right? Saxon, Žižek, or neither?
Definitely not Saxon, man. He's not a good guy.
Yeah.
I think Žižek has some interesting points. Maybe Buddhism isn't exactly the opiate of the masses, but it does have the danger of, misleading people if they don't understand it well. But at the same time, I think Buddhism has some real depth to it. And the idea of just leaving behind, leaving behind everything that is important, that's really not at all what Buddhism is about.
And I'm thinking a lot of people might describe Buddhism in really broad strokes as kind of a world-renouncing religion. I would say that there are traditions of renouncing the world, of engaging in asceticism, which is basically removing yourself from the world, removing yourself from worldly pleasures, often living some kind of monastic life. There are ascetic and monastic traditions in pretty much every religion. Is asceticism and monasticism more prevalent in Buddhism than in other religions?
I think you're absolutely right that the issue is really with world renunciation and not with Buddhism specifically, except that Buddhism does play this role in our society today. We don't really have any monastic traditions. But we do have people who decide to kind of drop out for a couple of months to go to a retreat center. And we have people who, decide to drop out to go on a hike, around the world or whatever for
I
for
did
a
go to
year or
church at a
something.
monastery when I was a kid,
Oh,
a
yeah.
Catholic monastery.
It's not that they don't exist, but it's not a very popular choice.
Right.
That probably had an effect on you.
Maybe that's why I'm here. An exploration for another podcast.
I mean, it's
Um,
relevant, I guess, but
yeah.
the question of renunciation and quietism, I think, is worth its own sort of moment.
Can
We
you
could,
tell the viewers what quietism means?
yeah. So a lot of people critique Buddhism as being a quietist tradition, meaning it just accepts that you shouldn't react to things. You just accept things peacefully, and that means that you step back from the world. Buddhists are cultivating restraint, cultivating self-control, and that seems on the surface, and in some ways it goes more deeper than the surface, to be putting forward a value that when in doubt, just don't act. Hold off for a second. So the idea of mindful self-awareness then is building this capacity to not act. But what's the point of that? The point of that is that it does build self-awareness. When you stop just doing and doing and doing and going after the next thing, you have a chance to figure out what's the right thing to do. You have a moment of awareness, of self-awareness. What are your own normal instincts, and do you really want to follow them?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of a quietist tradition, it's not totally false. You do have to stop. But it's a stopping that is supposed to lead to self-control that then leads to more skillful action when you come back to the world.